Hey, what's up, guys? I'm RoberOnocle, or as you better know me, Rob, and I am here with my mom. Hey, Mom.
Hey.
And we are here today to talk about a game that I beat it a few months ago, but it's still nice and fresh in our minds, especially as I just made a video on it a few months ago, or a month ago, excuse me. But yeah, we're here to talk about Breath of the Wild, a interesting Zelda game, definitely quite a different experience for Zelda games, and we are here today to share our feelings on it. Normally I'd go in depth with the background of it, but Breath of the Wild's only been out since March, March 3rd, 2017, so, there's not really much I can go into depth with here. So we can just jump right into the questions here for tonight, and we can go to our first question here, and, as usual, we'll start with the guest first. And that first question is, what did you feel was the game's greatest strength and its greatest weakness?
Okay, right off the bat, the greatest strength, and this is gonna sound pretty lame, but it was the graphics for me. Once you get
Hmm.
past the first loading page, or the first loading scene, it is breathtaking. It's very, very pretty. It's beautiful. Once you step outside of the chamber, and you look around, it is very, very pretty. I love how they made the water look very realistic. The graphics of the water look very realistic in the game.
Right.
That was a major turn on, because believe it or not, water is actually hard to you know um, make look like look realistic in video games.
It is.
So, and not that that was the main focus. It's just something I noticed along the way. Um, Unfortunately, I can't say there were too many pluses with this game. I did love the cooking element, the fact that you could cook for health reasons or for defense or different types of strengths in the game when you're in combat or what have you. Um, that was a big plus too. So I did like the graphics a whole lot. Zora's Domain was beautiful. Gerudo Town was beautiful. The colorful artistry, I loved all of that. But that it takes more than that to make a video game. For in my opinion, a big hit.
Indeed, it does.
So let's see.
So,
Well,
do you have a feeling for like sometimes the greatest weakness, or will that just come later?
the greatest weakness, I will still say the weapons breaking without upgrades. I don't understand why that was even part of, you know, they, the the fact they had no upgrades, and or the fact that you can repair the weapons. To
Right.
me, that was a big. It was a major letdown. They
Right.
could have done better with that.
Okay. So, if that is all you have to say, I can turn it over to me. Don't want to,
Okay,
cut you off. You good?
no, I'm good.
Okay. So, taking it around to me, for the game's greatest strength, I felt was I guess in terms of variety, I feel that it is the game's greatest strength. But it kind of falls in like what you said about the art style and stuff. It takes more than stuff just being different, for it to be a good game. Like there's more to it than just, oh, hey, look, it looks different. Like, no, that
Right.
that that, that is that does not mean, like, it doesn't matter how different or how varied your game is. If it's trash, it's trash. And I don't want to try to I don't want to try to dismiss Breath of the Wild as utter trash, but I mean, as great as strength, I mean, I do like the variety and stuff, the variety of places you can go to. There are certain other things I'll address that I kind of have problems with later on in this podcast, but
Mhm.
yeah, I do believe the variety is the best part. I mean, you got a lot of cool looking weapons, different stats and such, and it is interesting to look at it. But unfortunately, a lot. I'm gonna have to steal your answer here. Like you you said about the weakness, the breakable weapons. I mean, I'm sorry, but like the weapons look cool. I like the little bonus stats they can get and all that. That's cool and all, but it pretty much all loses value once you find out that just in a few hits the weapon's gone. You're never getting it back. There's no way you can go back and repair that item. Although technically, you can repair weapons. Well, no, no, no. You can repair rusted weapons, but only through a specific and odd process. Like you have to get a rusted weapon, and you have to run into if I'm not mistaken, a specific type of Octorok that's roaming about the overworld. Wait till they're inhaling and then throw the rusted weapon in, and when they spit it back out, it'll be repaired. But you can only do this with rusted weapons, and even then, it's just a weird way to repair weapons in general. Like you would expect if you're repairing it, you would just go in like a menu or something like that, and maybe pay up
Right.
some rupees or something like that. But no, And people tell me that, with Breath of the Wild, they say, well, the world is so big and there's so many things you can see, making the weapons, shatter like that is the only possible way to balance it. But I'm like, okay, so I guess, for a second we all forgot that, Minecraft exists. Minecraft exists, which does have weapon durability, and although I utterly detest Minecraft's combat, if you got a good grip around it, it is pretty balanced, at least from what I've seen and tried. And you also, Breath of the Wild took inspiration from several open world games. And, also Bethesda's, their open world games, which, does revolve around weapon durability, and it also revolves around repairing it, especially with, like, Fallout. Like, if you use guns or any type of weapon, really, in that game, you can't go around, swinging your bat like a madman or going guns blazing, because your weapons are going to end up breaking. But when they break, you can still go back and, repair them. And there's certain tiers of, weapons that you can find. So not every time you find a gun dropped off an enemy, it's not going to be the best thing out there,
Right.
And Breath of the Wild could have easily have done the same thing. It's 2017, and, for it to take a lot of inspiration from open world games and such, it feels like they just kind of like, oh, well, weapons break. Well, let's just do that. That's kind of cool. No, there's plenty of ways you can go about balancing it. And to me, just having the weapons just shatter just feels lazy, and it's just unsatisfying. And it's like I said,
it's very disappointing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, that yeah sounded really dismissive. Excuse me, but it's kind of like I said in the video. It just feels like, like no matter how cool the weapon is, no matter how good it is, like you always have you always remember, like, after that, like, all right, this weapon's only gonna last a couple hits and then it's going away. If it's like a champion's weapon, it'll last a little longer. But it feels like the fact that, like, see, if you could repair weapons and weapons broke in Breath of the Wild, but you could repair them, then I wouldn't have much to complain about, because at least then I can go somewhere and I can fix the dang thing, But
yeah, that would be a big redeeming quality that, for whatever reason, they omitted. I don't think they so much forgotten. They just didn't want to include it.
Yeah, it just feels weird. I'm like, the Zelda team, it's expanded over the years, but it's essentially 31 years old. I'm like, come on. You guys have seen everything. Like, I don't see why you couldn't have, looked around simple issues like, hey, let's just make a simple repairing mechanic. And like I said in the video, it's a game about survival and open world on this. I don't really care for Zelda doing a survival thing anyway. But I'm like, if you're gonna do survival, at least make it reasonable. Like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to repair items in this game. Like, previous Zelda games have had, item repairing and such. Like Skyward Sword, Like with
Here you go, Bobby.
Uh-oh. There's an internet problem, isn't it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see on my Steam here it says no connection, so my internet probably dropped for a moment. Excuse that, guys. Internet's just been a little funny. But, yeah, like I was mentioning with, Skyward Sword, because that had item repairing, granted, like, if you kept parrying it, it would never, break and everything, and that was the same, for, like, Breath of the Wild and shield parrying and such, but even then, I'm like, Skyward Sword takes place, like, over 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild. I'm like, there is no excuse Breath of the Wild has. I'm like, it's a futuristic Zelda game. Come on. You got robots and such walking around. Why can't you repair items?
Right, and you have technology supposedly that's so far advanced that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Right. Like, how would you... Tools, tools, they get dull and stuff. I'm like, they just like, oh, well, crap, let's just make some more tools. No, you're gonna go bankrupt or something like that doing that. Like, I'm like, this just makes no sense.
Yeah. It wasn't as cohesive as I would have liked it to have been. For instance, okay, the weapons break and they fall apart, but your clothes are forever durable. How is it your clothes are more durable than weapons when you're facing all these harsh different types of elements? It is...
Yeah, that's a good question.
You're not fighting with your jacket. I get that, that's, but at the same time, but it just seemed like, I don't know. It was an unnecessary add-on in the game, personally.
Yeah, and something they could have easily have fixed. Let's be honest here.
Right. I wish there was a patch that actually applies to the game, and that would make the game playability way more enjoyable. But
hopefully,
who knows? I don't even know if they can add it in, but if they can, they should definitely go that route.
I feel that if they're going to, like, if they're doing somewhere like, they're adding map features and stuff like that, they're adding extra gameplay, they're going to be adding a new campaign a new campaign to it, a story campaign to it, which I would assume would throw in some new stuff into it. I'm like, if they can do that, they can make item repairing, most definitely.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the next few months they'll catch word of it that this mechanic is kind of dumb in its current state and they might fix it.
Yeah, for sure. That they definitely need to look into that. It's even possible to even at this point, and since the game is already out and everything, that would be definitely something that they should consider looking at.
Right. So I suppose we can move on to the next question here, and that is, were the first few hours of the game interesting to you?
They were disorienting.
Oh.
And a tad confusing. Only because, usually, traditionally in most Zelda games, you have an objective.
Right.
And it's not looking to find the old dude in a cave, not in a cave, but right up under a precipice somewhere. You're actually, I don't want to say that traditional Zelda games are more hand-holding, because some of them aren't. But I would rather say that they actually give you a strategic game plan. And you don't really get that, in my opinion, in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, even just to add on what you're saying, like even like the first Zelda game gave you a rundown of what was going on and what you were trying to do. I'm like, Breath. I mean, I'll get to my point in a little bit, once you're done explaining your part. But yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, that's all. It was in my opinion, it has been feel like there was a clear agenda given. So you basically you come out the chamber, I don't want to say the rehabilitation chamber, but I can't remember what it was called exactly. When he was the chamber that he was in to bring him back to, I guess not life, but it
was like a revival chamber or something like that.
There you go, revival chamber. I think that's what it was called. You're just wandering basically, and I didn't like that feel. It felt too like it almost this is the way it felt. The beginning of the game almost felt like you were dropped in the middle of something. You don't know what just happened. And it felt more like someone was playing the game before you and left off there, and you picking up where they left off, and you hadn't watched them play the game beforehand. Right. So you don't know what you're doing. It kind of felt like that.
Hey, I got this 60% complete save file. Want to go finish it for me?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way it came across. Like, huh? So I guess, and I believe that's why it came across as a tad disorientating.
Right.
Disorienting, and a bit confusing, because I was like, okay, so what am I doing now?
Yeah, because it basically, like, although I mentioned the rundown of Zelda 1 and all that, it basically started how, like, the first two Zelda games did. They just kind of plop you there. And you're like, okay. Which, granted, they're NES games, so you really can't get mad at them. But, it just feels like, I think I'm kind of getting what you're saying. Like, you're trying to say, like, it feels a little, like, primitive, and, like, it just feels kind of backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely agree with
like
you.
You already played the game, and you're picking up where they left off. That's the way it felt to me.
Oh yeah, right. I was just gonna say, I really agree with that save file thing, and like it feels like you're just picking up where somebody finished. Because, truth be told, it kind of does a little bit. It just feels like I'm just like, because like everything is really open, from the beginning. You're just like, guess you have the Great Plateau, but even once you get past that, it just feels like, huh.
Yeah, so what am I doing again? Yeah, so we're pretty much parroting each other, but yeah, we got the exact same vibe. So I don't think that's just mere coincidence, because I believe other people have gotten that same vibe also. I really do. Now, whether they spoke upon it, I don't know, but I think other people have thought the same thing as well.
Probably. I mean, I've seen there's a cool guy by the name of Joseph Anderson. He's made a video reviewing Breath of the Wild, and people down there tend to share similar opinions to ours, so we're definitely not alone with stuff like this.
Yeah, we're on the outs. We're the outcasts.
Yeah, we're still the outcasts, though.
That's okay. I mean, no one's gonna agree 100% on everything. You're gonna have those type of those differences, but yeah. So and that, I think too, from the outset, I believe I was disappointed with the game, and it gave me a bit of an uneasy feeling, because I'm thinking, okay, so when is it about to get better? And there were some good points, but it never really got better. You know what I'm saying? It is kind of like, it kind of stayed on a mundane, even tempo, and I didn't really care for that. Everything felt almost anticlimactic throughout the entire game to me.
That I can agree with, especially with the whole scattered story elements. And it's like, hey, you gotta figure it out yourself. I'm like, excuse me. I'm
Yeah,
like, hey, this is still the Legend of Zelda, right? Like, you sure I'm not playing something else?
right.
I don't remember Zelda doing anything like that.
Yeah. And this ties into question three, so I'm just gonna roll into the third question only because two and three kind of goes together.
Okay, I can
So
come back to the
because of
previous one.
this, I'm sorry, you still I'm sorry, you still on question two?
I was doing question 2, but I can come back to that.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead because you can go ahead and finish. We can roll right into the third one.
All right, so I'll make it a little quick so you can keep your mind based on the third question. So I'll just get quick with this. So for me, the beginning of the game, the first few hours of it, if I were to be completely honest with you, I didn't like it. I mean, granted, once I got off the Great Plateau, I started to like it a little more. But truth be told, I did not like it. It frustrated me because there was this whole like I didn't like the whole like weather mechanic thing of like, oh, well, I gotta carry this torch around with me. I'm like, and
That was annoying.
yeah, you have to you sprint with it, and like the fire goes out. And some friends have told me, well, when you run with a fire, it's more bound to go out. But I'm like, yeah, but this is the Legend of Zelda. So what's that game's excuse? So
Right.
I mean, I don't mean to get smart with them like that, but I'm like, it's a fantasy game though. Like, not everything's supposed to
Yeah.
make complete
Oh,
sense.
but it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. In fact, it was a fantasy game, but it felt more like a regular mundane game that's trying to be fantasy. It was just a whole different appeal, and I was like, I just didn't care for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And speaking of the first few hours, I did not like how they rearranged the 3D Zelda controls. Because, like, for about almost 20 years, since Ocarina of Time, there was pretty much albeit some games messed around with it a little more, which that's okay. But, like, other 3D Zelda games, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, they all had their own version, of, like, the 3D, Ocarina of Time's 3D Zelda combat, and it was all slight variations of it, but it all worked together. It's nice. And, like, when you went from one game to the other, you weren't thrown off.
Right.
But with Breath of the Wild, they just completely rearranged everything. I didn't like that. Like
Yeah.
it was like R to throw now instead of like A, and it was like you had to like hold like L, like you had to like when you Z target or L target in this case. When you L target, that would bring up your shield rather than holding R. I mean, like, granted, Skyward Sword had the whole thing, but that's because you were using it with the Wiimote and nunchucks, so it was kind of alright. But when you're using it with a
Mhm.
gamepad, which, is supposed to resemble, a normal controller, it just feels off. It's just kind of like, when I use, if I was like, say like I was playing like, the Wind Waker, and like when I held L down, and like it brought up the
Mhm.
shield, like that just wouldn't feel right to me. Like
Right.
I would
Right.
expect to hold R to bring it up. Like in Skyward Sword's case, it's a special case and everything, and the Wiimote and nunchuck just kind of really can't get around that. It's just one of those things. But yeah, for something like Breath of the Wild, I just didn't like that. Also, I didn't like how they changed the shield to where it like if you put it away while you're running around, like you had to like retarget the enemy just so you could bring the shield up back again. That was dumb to me. And I
Yeah,
picked
I saw you struggle with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I picked
Hmm.
up on that quickly. I'm like, this shield thing is inconsistent. Like, I don't like that. That is stupid to me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to like get all rambly like that, but that was just dumb to me. I'm like, why did you guys mess with that? Also, I did not like, and I noticed this early on in the game too. How, like, another 3D Zelda games when you're locked onto a foe, the camera, like it didn't like completely, focus on the enemy, but it just kind of hung around, and like depending on where you were and where the enemy was, the camera would kind of, adjust itself to the fight. You know, I didn't like it how in Breath of the Wild, like the camera barely even tried to adjust itself, and you had to like move the right analog stick around just to move around and get a good look. Because like if an enemy went off the like screen, the game would barely try to move on and catch on to them. You had to keep turning the camera, or it wouldn't kind of like kind of get behind Link-ish, like to kind of keep up with the enemy moving off the screen. Like it didn't even try. You had to do all that yourself, and that is just frustrating. And I picked
Yeah,
picked up
especially
to
when
that
someone's coming
quickly.
at you full speed. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Because in the past, when playing games, one I can think of in particular is Twilight Princess, and it happened a couple of times also in Wind Waker when I used to play. That used to irk me so badly. Like, why won't it target until the enemy, and you have to do all these these hoops and everything to get it to happen. Now, it didn't happen all the time, but when it did happen, it
Yeah,
was pretty darn frustrating. I didn't play any of Breath of the Wild only because I wasn't too much inclined to do so because it really didn't grab my interest.
right.
But I can only imagine just throwing the remote down and say I'm done
Yeah, because
because
like you mentioned with the like, because I mean, the 3D Zelda games, they aren't perfect and everything like that. Enemy might move off and the camera might just kind of forget to catch up to them sometimes. It happens.
right.
But Breath of the Wild, it seemed like they were like, hey, let's take that that little little annoyance with 3D Zelda games. Let's turn it and just make it like it happens all the time. Like, what? Like, what were you doing? Stop. Like, fix. You can
Right.
fix this, Nintendo.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I can only imagine your frustration. Poor thing.
Yeah. Imagine when I had
um.
to sprint around an enemy and I had to keep turning the camera. So I had to sprint, stop. Use my, I was holding, my thumb on A, sprinting. I'm running around a Lionel. Then I had to let go of A, turn the camera, and then start sprinting again. It just felt so awkward. Like,
Hmm.
man, they could fix that, but they won't. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. The first few hours, I mean, I do feel it does get a little better, but the first few hours, I didn't like it. To be completely honest, I just didn't like it. Didn't care for
Yeah, I
the extra
agree.
survival thing too, and they were like, "Oh, you gotta go out and just grab all this stuff, and then you run out, just gotta run out." I'm like, "Nah, just can you not?" Oh, I also didn't like how Link was a freaking twig, like you breathed on him and he just died. I'm like, what? What? I'm like, this is annoying.
Yeah, yeah, and I will talk about that. We get into the combat dynamics, but yeah, that was not fun. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even playing the game. I'm like, this is not even fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know.
When I was
So
when I was
yeah.
recording footage of Vinny playing it, on playing Breath of the Wild, I was getting frustrated watching him just die instantly like that. I'm like, come on, like he had that.
Great.
So yeah, that's one thing. So let's move on to this third question here. I know you still said you had some thoughts to share, with the second and the third one. So let's hear out your thoughts on that. Let me
Well,
address the third question really quick, just so people know what we're
okay.
talking about. So this third question here, guys, is: did the game go with a consistent vibe of Zelda, or did it feel like it was lacking in this department?
No, and I think we pretty much already gone over the fact that all the things that we were used to in previous Zelda games, it pretty much just threw all that out, threw the baby out with the bath water and just tried something new and different. But I think where they kind of missed the mark is that they tried to do too many different things with this game. They could have kept some elements the same where it still felt like, oh yeah, this is an actual Zelda game, but it just felt like it was a completely different game with Link running around in it, and
Yeah.
some other characters that that you're used to, and some familiar places and names and things. And it no, no, me no likey. I no, it did not feel like a traditional Zelda game to me at all. And that is like out of all the Zelda games I ever played or watched you play, they all had the consistency, but this one just did not have that. And I'm sorry, it's a no. It's a no.
Well, you heard it here, guys. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm pretty much on this on the the same page as you. I mean, like you said, there were certain parts of it that felt familiar, but the removal of being able to control where you swung, and we'll get more into that. I'll just tap into that, but that, and like the fact that everything was just instantly open from the get go, and the story had a very weak focus on the story, and
Mhm.
and like when it was there, it just felt absent, and it just felt like it could have been. It just felt like you said, it just felt like it tried to do too many things at once. Like it just felt like an overly ambitious. It felt like an overly ambitious child, really. Like this
Yeah.
kid has all these ambitions, but like in this they just have all these clashing ideals, and like it just kind of doesn't work.
Mhm. I mean, the potential was there. It was not run together in a way where it felt complete. It just it and I told you this before. I said this feels like a running demo. I said this entire game feels like a demo. Like something somewhere is missing. Like like they haven't put the whole thing together yet, and they're just showing what they've come up with so far. And that's the way the game kind of flowed to me. To be honest with you.
Hmm.
So you really can't get around it now. I mean, I guess you could if you could add patches to the game, DLC content or whatever, or what have you. But nah, not I was not impressed.
In the game's current state, basically.
Yeah, in the current state, and straight off, hot off the press, it just it didn't move me, and I hate that because I how big of a Zelda fan I am. I am a huge fan, and for it to play out the way it did, it just I want to say my little heart was crushed because we had been waiting for how long for this game to come out. We
Since 2014 when it was first shown at E3, like
yes,
yeah.
So you're talking about almost perhaps 3 years, and when we get this, like, what is this junk?
I was pretty much playing like Wind Waker HD around that time.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I mean, I don't worry about it too much because we already played it and we're done with it, and I don't see either of us revisiting this game though because of how it plays. It doesn't play like an actual Zelda game.
Not in its current state now. There was also the extra campaign DLC which is coming out this holiday. We'll probably check that out. But
no problem.
As for the rest of it, not sure. So
yeah, because I'm willing to because I want to like it so badly. I want to give it a glowing review, and I really want to give it a chance. But it's hard when it just fell through for me. It just it wasn't for me.
Exactly. So I suppose we can move on to our next question here, and that is, what are your thoughts on Breath of the Wild's? Well, I did a type error. Princess Zelda. How did you feel about Breath of the Wild's Princess Zelda?
She was a conceited, bratty little twit. She was way different from any of the Zeldas that I can remember in times past. She, I'm used to Zelda being an ally of Link, and to me, she felt more like his enemy throughout the entire game, even though it seemed like she was forced to be friends. It's kind of like, you have two countries that's known for fighting each other over the, times and throughout history.
Right.
And then they're forced to fight together on the same side to defeat a common enemy, but they really don't care for each other.
Yeah, they're like knife-eyeing each other.
Exactly. So they're like, soon as we're done fighting them, we're fighting back like we used to. And that's the way it kind of felt like. She just felt like she was just like a distant enemy towards him. She just couldn't stand him for whatever reason. And the reasons that were given were not good enough reasons, in my opinion,
Yeah, because, oh no, I want to go study the Guardians and I can't do what I want because I'm a princess. I'm like, yeah, well, too bad. Life sucks. We don't get to do it. You don't get to do what you want to do? Oh, wow. Yeah, that sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, welcome to life.
Yeah, she was so high and mighty and so conceited. I was like, nah, honey. She was not the Princess Zelda that I know. Even, playing games like Wind Waker with Tetra. Even Tetra, she was annoying too, but she knew there was a common goal and she was willing to work with Link over the common goal.
Yeah.
This little brat here, she just wanted to do her own thing her way. And that was that. She was not agreeable. Everything had to be her way, and if it wasn't her way, she ran off in these little silly tantrums and fits. I'm like, I can't. It was just too different for me. Way too different.
Right. And bring it on to me, and I'm just kind of add what you say and everything. Yeah, and especially when you consider the fact that she's almost wrongfully getting mad. Because, I mean, if anybody has the right to complain about, like, their position, it's Link. Because when you really think about it, because after, Skyward Sword, he got cursed by Demise. And, he got cursed to, be reincarnated. I mean, this guy is basically being cursed to where he can never truly die. And he has to keep fighting for basically an eternity. Like, unless there is some way they can, like, completely stop a threat. Which they sort of kind of did in, Wind Waker and Spirit Tracks being, but that's for later. But I mean, you got to really think about it. I mean, like, Princess Zelda. I mean, you get attacked by people, but for the most part, you remain mostly safe. You're guarded and everything. I mean, you have responsibilities that you don't want to do. But Link, I mean, his existence pretty much revolves around fighting monsters, and it doesn't matter if he's tired because he's getting pushed on these adventures and such. Because I mean, you see in every Zelda game, typically Link's just a normal dude trying to live a normal life, and then he gets thrown on these quests and such that, of course, he doesn't want to be on.
Right.
But you don't see him complain one bit because, I mean, even once, because in Breath of the Wild, I think they kind of figured out that everybody's getting reincarnated.
Right.
I do believe they kind of did figure out, like, oh, these people are showing up, you know, because the future and stuff like that, and they'll catch on to that stuff, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But I mean, if anybody, I'm like, but if anybody's the right to complain, it's just Link because he has to keep fighting and he can never stop. You know, because at least with Ganondorf, at least he's pursuing an ambition he wants to achieve. Link is thrown into a situation where he has to fight something that he wants nothing to do with, and he has to do it.
And you know what? As another thing, after a while, you get the sense that perhaps, I mean, and it's never really revealed in the game, but you get the sense that perhaps Link starts to feel a bit underappreciated by the princess because she's just so high and mighty, and this is gonna happen my way. I want to do it things my, I just didn't like it. They didn't seem like real actual partners like I'm used to in the other game series.
Yeah. And especially, you know, and it's just the smaller things that weird me out. Like, she gets upset when Link follows her around. I'm like, Zelda, Link is your royal guard. He's sworn his life to protect you. What do you want him to?
Exactly.
I'm
actually doing his job. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, if he doesn't do his job, he might get executed. I mean, like, what do you want the guy to do? Die? Like, I mean, it's just like
Well, yeah, that's the way she acted.
and I mean, you gotta think about it too, because like, well, technically she's over 100 years old, and when the game takes place, but like at the time she was like 17 years old. I'm like, you're acting like you're 8, like younger than 8, really, but
Yeah.
that's more like 4 or 5-year-old stuff. Stop following me, like what?
Mm-hmm.
Like and according to Breath of the Wild, apparently Link's family has served into this. So I'm like, it's Link's life duty to make sure you stay alive. So I'm like,
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's just small things like that. I'm like, you really have the nerve, Zelda. You really do. And speaking of other Zeldas that were a bit uncharacteristic, there was also, Spirit Tracks Zelda, because, there was a whole thing with the weird thing with the Triforce shattering and, the spirit of, the wisdom and the courage and all that. And because, Link was unusually, unmotivated, and Zelda was unusually motivated. She was more selfish than usual compared to other Zeldas and such, because she had this big focus of, getting my body back rather than the usual calm and collected Zelda that, Zelda, we know Zelda for. But the thing with her is that she kind of learned, over time that, okay, this is not just about me. And she slowly built up upon, like, okay, so, I actually had, be considerate of others and such. And she became more likable rather than just being, hey, just get my body back,
Right.
And that's what I liked about it.
Adorable. I love Zelda from Spirit Tracks. She was funny and adorable.
Yeah,
and she kept the storyline going in a way where it kept you entertained. This Zelda make you want to smack her every time you saw her on the screen. It was just really irritating.
Yeah, I think the difference here is that like the Spirit Tracks Zelda got a little whiny at times because again her because of the whole Triforce thing it just got weird. But but with her, like, she was whiny, but like it was done clearly a bit for comedy, a little bit for a little chuckle. But like with Zelda being whiny and Breath of the Wild, it seemed like it's trying to take itself serious with it, and it's almost like it's trying to put us on her side. It's kind of like
it was a downer too.
Yeah,
the game felt like a little bit of a downer. Like, why is she so?
It feels like almost like slight pandering towards her. I'm like, no, that's. And it seemed like it was trying to justify her point of not wanting to like do this stuff and want to do other things. I'm like, Nintendo, you're a bunch of old people. You guys have lived life. You know that you can't do everything that you want to do.
Right.
Like what? I mean, I don't mean to like try to get on like that, but I mean, it's come on.
Yeah.
Zelda has been written better than that.
And but you're right though, because she did come across as immature. She did have an immature quality about her that I couldn't get with it. I mean, I just tried and I couldn't.
Yeah. That was the same way. So I suppose we can move on to our next question here, and that is, did you feel that the combat was a step in the right direction, or did you feel the opposite?
It was so unfair. The combat was really hard with the one-hit kills. It got to the point where you literally wanted to just scream at the TV and just throw something and just go off into a fit. I didn't get the whole point of the one-hit kills, especially when you start off, you have these very, very low-grade weapons. The clothes you're wearing are low-grade,
Right.
so why would you put me in a combat with an enemy that's got, you know, power up the wazoo and all these extra these high powered combat weapons? It just I didn't understand it. I didn't get it.
Let us also not forget the super armor. You know how like when I would hit them, and like they
Hmm.
would just shrug it off and hit me anyway, and there was absolutely
Right,
no way I could predict it. Like it didn't like
right.
it'd be one thing, like they're swinging a big heavy sword, and I hit them and they shrug it off and they hit me. Okay, I can expect that, but like it could be when they're just punching me or if they're hitting me with like a stick. It doesn't matter what they're holding, and it doesn't matter if they're not even getting ready to attack me. I can hit them before and they just shrug it off and they just go right to hitting me. I'm like, what?
It's kind of make you want to go like, what happened?
Right.
You know, because it was a bit stunning to see. Well, I wouldn't say stunning as in woo stunning, but you felt a bit stunned to see. Oh wow, why is this so freaking hard at this point in the game? It didn't match to me.
Yeah, it felt awkward.
It did.
So
Yeah, that's pretty much I can think about. I can think about that one.
okay.
Oh, but it also ties into the next question. I'll wait for you to ask that one though.
Okay. So I move on to move around to me, and so for me, did I feel it was in the right direction? It had ambition, but I kind of felt the opposite. It just felt because for one, like I mentioned, I don't like how they removed the ability to swing manually swing left and right. I felt like a lot of control was taken away from the fight. And like I said, like if it was a top-down 2D Zelda game, I could live with it because they're just known for having that, just swinging in one solid direction. But in a 3D Zelda game, you tend to have to think a little more in combat, and it just felt like they tried to integrate that. It felt awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, didn't like the insta kill system. That was dumb to me, and how enemies could just shrug off attacks, bam, you're dead, and then you're just taken to the game over screen so quickly. There's also the ragdolls. I cannot stand them.
Oh, the ragdolls.
And how like
Yeah.
this wasn't even really exclusive to combat. Link took too much damage. He just like hucked off in one direction and started sliding down somewhere. And like it was
And it
so
took him too long
decline
to get up.
sensitive. Like once he started sliding, he just like he zipped. Like he was gone. And then you could take damage as you're sliding down too, and it's just
Yeah.
it just makes you grit your teeth because I'm like, who at Nintendo HQ thought this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And it looks unsophisticated, and it looks like a lazy way to just call itself, we're the hardest Zelda game out there. I'm like, oh gee, I wonder why. Maybe because it's the one hit kills, and I feel like they cheated their way to calling themselves the hardest Zelda game. It felt like Breath of the Wild cheated its way to being called like the hardest Zelda game in the series. I'm like, I mean, yeah, by strictly objective principles, I mean, yeah, you are the hardest Zelda game out there, but
Yeah.
You didn't- you didn't- you didn't-
Wheels. I didn't.
you didn't
get
play
the
fair
ragdoll
game.
at all. Right.
Oh dang, Happy Wheels! Wow, that man.
Yeah, I went back then.
Yeah, that takes me back to 2012. Oh man. Although Happy Wheels ragdolls were kind of weird too, so
Yeah, so, and that's what I actually thought about when you were playing. Like, it's got a happy wheel feel to it.
also like
There was too much going on that was not really cohesive, in my opinion.
yeah. Also like I said in the video, it just looks lazy, the ragdolling. Like to be honest, I mean like I said, if there was a little animation they played before they went to the ragdoll, I could live with that. But like their body just instantly goes limp. It's like I'm like, you could have tried at least a little bit. And like I said, there are a few enemies that have death animations, but the vast majority of enemies just go limp the moment they die, and it just looks awkward. I mean, that's funny,
Yeah.
but like at the same time, I'm thinking like this is kind of lazy. Like, and the same for Link. Like he doesn't have a death animation. I guess it's because the game is so stupidly hard for no reason. For the wrong reasons rather.
Mm-hmm.
It's so stupidly hard, so they have to make the game over screen super quick, so they don't want to have like a death animation for Link or anything. But in that case, they're realizing the flaw in their game, so I don't see what, like, I don't get it. It's almost like they made the
Yeah,
game
I
over
agree.
screen and his death extra brief because the game is really cheap at certain points. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what were you guys doing? And I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm like, what? Like, it seems like they knew they were doing stuff wrong, but they just kept going with it. I'm like, Did you guys?
It's like they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah, like, oh, but I just have to have these ragdolls and all these one-hit kills because I have to be the hardest. You're like, what?
Oh, that's funny for all.
And I pretty much,
okay.
Normally I would revolve it around to me, but I kind of just explained how I felt about it.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we can move on to the next question here, and that revolves around the Oh, sorry, my computer decided to try to go to sleep for a moment. This next question here, and that is, did you find the difficulty balanced or unbalanced? Now, this is not just the combat, just, in general.
The difficulty scaling was it was. I don't know what their main objective was. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, really, because it was. I mean, I know I'm lost for words, but I don't even know how to accurately say it. The difficulty scaling in the game was just ridiculously hard. I didn't get it.
Oh, you mean Insta Kill Fest 2017?
Yeah, the insta kills.
It just got worse.
That's not even a difficulty scaling. That's just more taking cheap shots,
Yeah.
So I don't, like I said, I don't know where they were going with that really. I know there were many people who had made different hypotheses over it. I have a hypotheses. I don't know over it, and they were talking about difficult scaling in the different dungeons and so forth and everything. But I didn't see the whole how it came together in a way that it's almost like difficulty scaling wasn't even needed because the insta kills were so crazy,
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it didn't matter. You're gonna get hit once, no matter how much HP you had or how much armor upgrade you had or how good of a weapon you had. It's like it didn't even matter. It seemed like at certain points in the game.
Right. And funny enough, I did mention in my video too. If you keep upgrading, like if you're just hell bent on upgrading a one set of armor, you can actually make it to where everybody is dealing like they're taking like a quarter like a heart out of you for like each hit. So in that case, then the game becomes really easy. So
so it goes in the opposite direction?
So on either ends of the spectrum, they failed. Like, so this is the thing. Either Breath of the Wild.
Stop when it stops getting too easy. I mean, how would you?
Yeah.
Why would you want to play a game that's that easy? Because that gets boring really quickly too.
Yeah, because I mean, even people say like with games like Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword was not the hardest Zelda game out there, and Wind Waker on this when it's not on hero mode, it's not the hardest Zelda game out there and such. But I mean, at least the game, like it somewhat tried to kill you, but like Breath of the Wild, it just becomes, but it goes from Insta Kill Fest 2017 to Immortal Fest, like 2017. Like, you just can't die, because Link's super tough. I'm like, so in that case, it's like, because at least in other Zelda games, when they claim to be like, the extra easy Zelda games and all that, which, like I said, Zelda games haven't been the hardest ones out there, like, especially games like Minish Cap, it wasn't that hard, but, I mean, it's just like, at least you took a decent amount of damage where you consider, maybe I should just, grab going, and that's probably what people felt was the difficulty breaker, in Zelda games, was the hearts, because, like, they were dropping all over the place in other Zelda games. But, people were saying that, but at least, like, in those Zelda games, when you took damage, you're like, maybe I should go and grab some hearts a little bit. But, like, in Breath of the Wild, you're taking a quarter heart of damage from literally some of the strongest enemies in the game. I'm like, that's unbalanced. In that case, then it just, like...
Why even play?
Yeah.
Because it's not a challenge no longer.
Yeah, because there's nothing to worry about. You can mindlessly do whatever you want. Because, like... okay, so, Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages... Before what I heard about Breath of the Wild, that was the easiest Zelda game I've ever played. But that game even tried to kill me and such. And it even got to... Because with most Zelda games, at least the final boss tends to be a little tough. At least they try. Or at least near the end of the game, they start to kick it up a notch, That's most Zelda games. They kick it up a notch and it starts to get a little tough. Whether it be the puzzles get tough, but, like we mentioned... like I mentioned in my video on Breath of the Wild, the dungeons are just awful in that game and the puzzles aren't hard. So, at that point, the game is just like... in that case, it almost feels like you were saying before. It feels unfinished because then like you're barely taking any damage, so you feel like you're like in the testing stage where they're just like testing like how Link handles damage and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. It's like even other Zelda games, like with other Zelda games. I mean, minus the start because that's typically where you take like a quarter heart of damage, but minus the start of a Zelda game. I mean, even then, a quarter of a heart, like, come on, like what?
Right.
Like even
you're basically immortal. If
like
it. Yeah.
Even for normal Zelda standards, that's just low. Like that is just ridiculously low.
It's like fighting a pair of Goombas or something foolish like that. Really. Yeah.
Right. Like so, no matter how you look at Breath of the Wild, on one end it's unbalanced, on the other end it's unbalanced. Like either you're too strong or the enemies are too strong. And as the guy I mentioned before, Joseph Anderson, a great guy. He's like, even if you try to stick in the middle and you try to get your armor in between where it's not the strongest but not the weakest, then it becomes a fest where you're just juggling, where like you're just playing chicken. Like you're like, okay, I'll fight these guys but I won't fight these guys. But then it just gets awkward at that point. So you're like, no matter how you go about it, the difficulty has been handled very poorly, and I think that it could definitely use a patch. And heck, why not? And if I'm thinking, like with this whole like scaling thing, why not just do a level up system? I mean, Zelda games haven't really. I mean, honestly though, like if Zelda games had like leveling up and XP and all that, I mean that wouldn't ruin a Zelda game for me. That wouldn't take away from Zelda. Like if Ocarina of Time was remade and it it has been remade, but if it was remade again, but it had like leveling up and stuff like that, it wouldn't bother me. Like I just learned to work with it, enemies would scale up as you go, because like Zelda 2 had leveling up and such, in an EXP system. I'm like, in Breath of the Wild, I mean, Breath, you could have done that. You could have added it. You could have brought the EXP system back from Zelda 2, and that would have been an easy way to simply have enemies scale up with you. So like they're getting tougher, but you're getting stronger and such, and your stats are getting higher and stuff, so you can kill stuff faster, but they can also kill you. But it's a nice steady balance of you're learning the game as you're going along. But Breath of the Wild decided to, let's just throw it out the window and let's just do this really lazy like 4-part like armor system. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So overall, the difficulty was horribly unbalanced. Could be done a lot better. So I suppose we can move on to our next question here, and that is, did you find Breath of the Wild's story to be good? And is the game's story better than another's, excluding the NES titles, because of course the NES titles are as simple as it can get?
Out of all of the 3D Zelda games, it is by far the very worst. The story itself, I think part of the reason why I'm going to say no is because we didn't get all of the story memories. So we were missing some things. So some things might have not really clicked in really well for us, or for me anyway. Now I will say some of the characters were very, very good and very, very memorable. Now forgive me, I'm putting out a disclaimer. I've forgotten some of the names of the characters. But I will say, out of all of them, Master Koga, oh my goodness, he was
Master Koga. Okay, yeah, guys, we've got to give credit where credit due. That was a really, really funny fight. Like I don't think I've ever laughed that hard at a Zelda game. Like that gave me a good laugh.
So when they were doing characters, now for whatever reason, they could get the characters right. They could make the characters come to life and make them memorable and give them personality. And what I liked about it is that no one's personality felt like another person's personality.
Right.
Now, some were a little, not as memorable as others, but
like Rivali,
for the most part,
bird dude.
Yeah, the bird. I don't remember the bird.
Yeah, I don't care about Rivali. He's kind of lame.
But the rest, they had very, very. They had a genuineness about them that made you like them.
Yeah.
So that they did get right. So I commend them for that. I did like the characters and their personalities a lot in the game. I'm sorry. The question was, and like I said, we didn't get all the story pieces, the memory pieces. So I think that might be one of the reasons why the game didn't have a complete feel also for us.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think that plays into a part of why the story to you isn't as good either because it just feels unorganized.
Right, and that's exactly how it felt. It felt disorganized and a bit chaotic because it just felt like everything was just being slapped together and just here you go, here's a story. It didn't. No, there's certain games that you can play out of order, as far as fighting different areas first, but it still it still comes together. I keep saying the word cohesive. I'm gonna stop saying the word, but it still comes together. It still comes together in a way where you still don't feel like you're missing something or you're
Right.
lacking something. This didn't have that vibe. This felt more like it just felt chaotic and disorganized to me. Like I just couldn't really. You can make out the story toward the end, but it still felt like okay, there's something missing, and which for us naturally something was missing because we didn't have all the memories.
Right.
And I know it just had that.
Yeah, it's
It could
so
have been
absent
better.
that when you go like to explore and everything, it feels like you're just doing it with no purpose because it feels like, like, hey, what exactly am I trying to do? I'm like, I know I'm trying to like, stop Calamity Ganon, but I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, so, I'm kind of I'm a relevant person clearly, but it's just kind of. It just kind of feels like okay, so why should I care about these guys, and everything, and the fact
Exactly.
and the fact that they're making you go all over the place and such. You're like, okay, there is Zelda, she did a thing, but it just feels so awkward and like because they decided to scatter off the story elements. You just by the time you get all of them, you don't even care anymore because you spent
Don't
so
care.
much time looking for all these dumb memories.
And that's so funny that you say that because as enjoyable as they were as characters, and likable as they were as characters, there was no there was a connection. I'll still say some of the characters because you were forced to connect with some of the characters when you were fighting in certain dungeons and whatnot, but it still wasn't enough to make you genuinely feel like there was a sense of accomplishment at the end of the game. Like it just it's kind of like you said, like whatever. So we beat it. That's nice.
Oh man, the ending. Wow, I have. Man, I mean, like I said in the video, like it's been a while since I have seen a Zelda ending that sucky.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, actually, no. Well, it's not even. To be honest, it's probably the worst Zelda ending I've ever seen to a Zelda game. Period. I mean, like, wow. Like, I mean, for like 2017 standards and such, I mean, like, man, this end. I mean, like I said to you, I'm like, Zelda 1 kind of ended the same way, but I'm like, yeah, but that's a game from 1986. This is a
Right.
2017 game. I'm like, Nintendo, no.
Right.
And then they want us, and then, like I said, you didn't see the true ending because I didn't get all the, the cutscenes and stuff like that. But when you watch the true ending, it's a setup for DLC. And like, it just starts to drive you mad a bit because you're just like, "Ugh, you guys didn't try on purpose."
And I think that's why I say it felt like a demo. It just felt like it was incomplete. Like they just hadn't gotten to a finished product yet.
Yeah, and then there's also the true ending too with Zelda talking about like how she was thinking about some of her mistakes she made and all that. She could, and she was talking about like I'm not a perfect person and I can accept that or whatever she said and says, but I'm like, hey, it's too late. It's too late, brat. I already don't like you. So
Exactly. I don't want to hear your excuses now, lady.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you are 100 years too late. All right. I mean, I don't really care right now. But yeah, for her to like, because if she hadn't made that change, where she realized that hey, I'm being kind of a brat. I should probably stop that. She did that. Well, granted, she wasn't even with you, but if it had done it, if you had been with her, that's kind of my gripe too with the story. You weren't experiencing it really. Like the stuff already happened, so you felt so out of touch with the game.
It did. It did make you feel like you were playing it not even through Link's eyes, but someone else's eyes.
Like you're just like an observer, like a bystander.
Right.
Like it was just weird. But
Hmm.
yeah, like if you had played in the memories, like if you were in the memories, you were playing them and such. You were playing with Zelda, and eventually at some point she kind of realized like, hey, I'm kind of being a bit of a whiner and such, and I'm wanting things that I'm basically delusional. I'm wanting things that just can't happen. If that had
Right.
happened, like if she had did what she did at the true ending near the beginning of the game, then I would start to like her.
Right.
But at that point, I'm like, it's too late. Like she sucks.
And boy, she was a pill. She was a little whiny pill. She was.
Yeah, And is the game's story better than another's? Heck no. Like,
Oh no.
no. Mm-mm. I mean, you have some Zelda games that are very, action focused and such, and I guess if you want to get extra technical with it, yeah, Breath of the Wild's story is better than some Zelda games. But I mean, just for an overall drive and a reason for you to do these things, Breath of the Wild is just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little half baked.
Yeah, and like you can tell they just didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they have a setup for DLC, so they intentionally didn't try. And people are trying to, I don't mean to, like, I'm trying not to, let's attack the audience's opinion here, but like, people are praising this game like it's dang near perfect. I'm like, the flaws in this game are like, it's one thing, if there's just some flaws here and there, you can take them or leave. But I'm like, the flaws in this game is glaring. Like, you can't help but see them.
Right, and like you said, you hope there's DLC coming out to fix all of it, because it's almost like they pretty much just gave you a basic frame of the game,
Right.
and later on they'll release things that will actually make the gameplay more interesting. And if that was their goal, is basically just to get more money out of the consumer. But that could be very ingenuous, but at the same time very disingenuous.
Right.
Because you're making me pay how much money just for the game to get good to me? Really? No, I'm good, honey.
Right. And as we both know, there is no such thing as like objective opinions and everything, but I do feel that there are objective values that can bring a game down. Because when I think of a game, I think of this is what I think of when I play a lot of games. I think of the developer's intention. This is what I think of. I think about it. I'm like, when I think of the problems of Breath of the Wild, would the developers have seen it? Like, is there for like, insta-kills and stuff like that? Yeah, they probably would have seen that. And yeah, it's kind of lazy. Like, I don't mean to be stubborn, but there's really no way you're going to convince me that Breath of the Wild's combat isn't lazy, because it could have been done a lot better. Like, it really could have. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Talking about the combat, after a while it becomes tedious and it's no longer fun.
Yeah, again, because like we said, it's the insta kills, that gets monotonous, and then like I said, there's a lack of flexibility in how you can fight, because they took that all away in Breath of the Wild. So yeah, I can see how you're saying that, but yeah, that kind of falls on saying too, because you look at the combat, and everything, and like, okay, so that's the flexibility of it has been taken away. And you look at the story, that has clearly been set up for DLC to charge people more money for it, and no matter how expensive the DLC is, that's a little unethical. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I just look at that. I try to think of it. I'm like, I try looking from the devs' perspective. I'm like, what are they really trying to do?
Right.
And if what they're doing is unethical, then I honestly feel that can be an objective problem to a game, because then the developer is trying to take advantage of the consumer, and that is wrong.
Right. I 110% agree. I guess we'll be the ones that won't be buying too many DLCs from future games.
Yeah, and again, for certain problems, it depends on how broad the problem it is, because it could be minor problems where the devs saw it, but they probably just didn't think too much of it and everything. But these are huge, glaring problems, and they're just overlooking it, when a lot of people like me are just like, it's like, I don't think I've ever played a Zelda game, well, minus another game I'll probably bring up a little later, but like, it's just like, Nintendo, like, look at what you're doing. Like, it's just been sloppily put together, And there was stuff that they clearly could have seen. If me, a 17-year-old, can see these flaws, these people over at Nintendo that are 50 and 60 years old should be able to see the same thing. Just saying.
And I think the team that the developing team that actually created the game, they're probably like really young guys, probably 20s, maybe 30s. And in my opinion, I think the older ones probably were just overseeing everything.
And they just overlooked all the problems.
Yeah, that's just my guess. I don't know.
I could actually, because it does kind of feel like a time that Breath of the Wild was developed by like a couple of college students.
Like some interns or something.
Yeah, like some interns. And like, hey, interns, go make us a Zelda video game. Okay. And then Breath of the Wild happened. So,
Yeah.
And it feels like, they looked it over, but they just didn't bother to polish it up. Like, Aonuma, man, like, you've made some great Zelda games in the past, or you've directed some great Zelda games, so what were you doing? Like, really?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
Yeah, like I said already, I think it really is a money factor with them. It's not so much about the enjoyability to the consumer. And I'm just saying, if you're gonna make a game like this, you should make it enjoyable to the point where I don't even notice what you're doing. But see here, it's so obvious what you're doing.
Yeah.
It takes away from the game also.
I'm like, hey, you're trying to take advantage of me, you know?
Right.
And hey, you're not fixing these problems that like pretty much anybody can see.
Right.
Like, come on, like let's be like, when you're playing a game and it has weapon durability, weapon sharpness, repairing it, like, come on, that is common sense.
Right.
Like, I can't even fathom how they just overlook. Like, it just, again, the flaws in this game, the stuff it does wrong, it just drives me insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't mean to just like be a whiny little Princess Zelda 2017, but you know, like, man. And just getting a little off topic for a bit. See, you know, people tell me, people like to tell me that the decline of Zelda started with Skyward Sword. Now, I already disagree with that because I think Skyward Sword is a great Zelda game. I think it was done I thought the story was great, the gameplay was great. You know, the extra game content was great. I felt a lot of content in that game was great. Now, you know, for some people, it just may not be their cup of tea. But like, I don't know if I'd say that because I don't feel the Wiimote controls were hard or such like anything like that. Like, honestly, and when I've talked to several of my own friends and everything, and you know, these friends don't play Zelda nowhere near as much because I play Zelda like a drug, you know.
Right.
But these friends who play Zelda nowhere near as much as I do, they have said that you know, Skyward Sword's combat is common sense, you know, and everything. You swing your arm down, left and right, like it's simple stuff. Like, you know, I've been told that maybe it's because it's too simple that it's bad. I'm like, Skyward Sword's combat, you know, the way you execute it is simple, but Skyward Sword's combat is technically the most complex sword combat in the Zelda franchise. You know, the whole, like, how you could do, like, you know, like, the spins and such, and where you could swing it, and how you supposed to attack your enemies, because they were more focused around gestures and stuff. Like, technically, Skyward Sword is the way you executed it was simple, but as far as, like, you know, like, combat went, it's technically the most complex Zelda combat in the entire series. And honest to goodness, I feel that people nitpick that game. People hate Skyward Sword just because it's Skyward Sword. Like, I don't want to say, well, oh, you're just hating it because it's different, because, I mean, no, for some people, maybe the game was just not interesting, so maybe the enemies just weren't interesting, because maybe the combat was just unenjoyable. But I feel for something like blaming the combat because like the controls just felt awkward. You know, for me that was just kind of like, oh, that's your problem. That's not really the game's problem. And for it to be as simple as it was, and you know, I'm like, it's just, you know, swing your arm down, up, diagonal. I'm like, can you not do that? Do you not have a functioning right arm? Like, that's why I don't understand the criticism of Skyward Sword, and that's why I don't feel like it's the downfall of the Zelda series. To me,
opinion,
I'm sorry.
In my opinion, if you dislike Skyward Sword, you must absolutely loathe Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, because
that's my personal opinion, because at least Skyward Sword still felt like an actual Zelda game. I don't know what.
And it showed competency.
Right.
Breath of the Wild has glaring problems that can clearly fix, but yeah, I can understand that. And you know what's funny? Breath of the Wild actually borrowed a lot of, like, you know, even though it took away a lot, Breath of the Wild borrowed elements from Skyward Sword. So I'm like, okay, so why does everybody like this game so much? Because the Wiimote controls were taken away, even though, to be honest, they weren't that hard to begin with. They're easily comprehensible, you know? Like, I don't get it. But to get what I was saying about the old downfall of the Zelda series, like, Skyward Sword is not the downfall to me. If I had to be completely honest, A Link Between Worlds is where Zelda started falling apart. Because when they started, because A Link Between Worlds is basically the exact same game, minus, you know, it's tweaks here and there, but it's basically a Link to the Past, but repackaged to look a little nicer, and, you know, like, look a little nicer. It's claiming to be a different game, even though it's not. And, you know, like, even though it's kind of not. I mean, the beginning is similar, the ending is similar. And, you know, what Nintendo basically did is they sold the same game to us for $40 without really changing much of anything. Like I mean, it's just kind of like. Now, if it was a remake and they sold it for $40, I mean, I'd probably still question it and such. But at least they were trying to sell it as a different game. Like, that's just a remake. That's just them polishing upon a game. But this is a so-called new game, and you're sort of kind of lying to us a little bit. And to me, it's that point where when Nintendo figured out that they could con their fans with Zelda, that is the decline. Because
yeah,
when they realized that they could just do whatever and they could just get away with it, that's the decline. Because then they can just do whatever. That's why Breath of the Wild is, that's why Breath of the Wild is doing as well as it is, because nobody's saying anything about these glaring problems. And, Nintendo's like, oh, well, we're going to get away with it anyway, so we might as well just, And then there's also Triforce Heroes, which, I mean, a lot of people didn't play Forces Adventures, but if you play Forces Adventures, you'd realize Triforce Heroes is an extremely lazy Zelda game. But again, well, it's Zelda, as well, give it a pat. I'm like, no. It's been done better before.
Right.
So, I'm like, and again, Nintendo realized that they can get away with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is the true decline. I feel that it is both a combined effort from both the Rabbids fans and Nintendo. They both brought the series down because Nintendo's doing this extra lazy stuff and the fans are not calling them out for it.
But, like you said, I don't think the fans actually know, though. I think, excuse me, the average Zelda fan, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I don't know where that cough came from. They don't know anything about the other Zelda games in the Zelda franchise. So they're basically, they're basically going off of limited knowledge. So they think, oh, yeah, this is great. Well, it's great if this is all you know, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild's great if it's your first Zelda game.
Yeah, that's all you know. Then yeah, you're gonna say it's great because you don't know any better. You have nothing to really compare it to. And if you're just gonna compare it to the other 3D Zelda games, then you still really don't know the whole wide berth of what Zelda has to offer. And that's basically what you're saying. And they're missing that point that you're making because they just don't know.
Right. I mean,
they have no clue.
Because for me, I have beaten 17 out of the 19 Zelda games that currently exist. I haven't beaten Link's Awakening. I mean, although a dumb 12-year-old me looked up the ending, so I already kind of know how it ends and such. Right. So it's just been lower on my priority list because I already know how it ends. So I'm like, it's no big deal, and such. And I haven't really worried about that. And there's also Triforce Heroes, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Right.
But yeah. It's just that, man, this is a lot coming out of talking about the game story. Like, this evolved into so much. Just saying.
Yeah. Pent up emotions.
But yeah. I don't like where Zelda's going because at this point they feel like they can con us out. And most Zelda fans, most people who claim to be Zelda fans, like they it's just like they claim Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, when you look at the franchise has done previously, I'm like, Breath of the Wild just looks a lazy mess. And then you have these people that they've played every single Zelda game in the franchise, which, to be honest, that alone doesn't really justify it. But then when they're talking about Breath of the Wild, it's pretty clear they just want to push all the faults all the way and just say the game is good. Like, they're the same people that'll like they'll call every Zelda game good. But except for Skyward Sword, of course. The Skyward Sword is, of course, the worst Zelda game in the series. So obviously, but but of course, I'm rambling a little bit here. But this is Zelda. I get really I get really emotional about this stuff. I'm really passionate about it. But yeah. But But then those people talk to me, and the way they talk to me about Breath of the Wild and such, and that they played every single Zelda game, I'm like, okay, so have you played and beaten every single Zelda game? Have you played and watched closely to what every Zelda game does right and wrong? Because if you pay attention to that, you realize that Breath of the Wild has done a lot of wrong. Even if you played a lot, have you paid attention?
Right.
Because there are some people where, they have beaten all 19 Zelda games. I haven't beaten all 19 Zelda games, but I can tell you, I am sure as heck that, because with Link's Awakening, well, that's basically the Oracle games, but less. So in a sense, I kind of already know what to expect from Link's Awakening, because it has a lot of elements from the Oracle games, and the Oracle games took that and refined it. So I already know what to expect. So yeah, there is kind of that. Although I heard the story is pretty good, I would check that out. But there's other Triforce Heroes, and that game, I already explained. It's a lazy game. Like you can already see it, and it's not gonna get better. It just won't. So yeah, there is that. So yeah, like if you actually just pay attention, you pay close attention, Breath of the Wild is below normal Zelda standards.
It is not even on the map, in my opinion. And I mean, okay, that's been a bit too harsh. That's not really fair to say that, but I want to say that I do believe that they wanted this to be a really good game, but for whatever reason, monetary factors, monetizing the game to the point where we're getting charged for everything. It just, I just think the wrong objectives got in the way. I do.
Right. So okay, before we go on any longer with this, because man, we've been on for a while for this. Let's move on to the next question, shall we?
Okay.
So how did you feel about Breath of the Wild's incarnation of Ganon and Link's incarnation?
Teehee. I'm going to tell the truth. I fell asleep on most of Ganon's fight. It wasn't on purpose, but I just found it really hard to stay focused. It was not holding my attention. What I do remember put me in the mind of Twilight Princess Ganon a bit. But other than that,
Wait, I think you missed the first phase, because I know you saw the second phase.
I missed a whole big chunk, so I can't even really speak on Ganon, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Now I will say I did like Link. I did like that was another good thing about the game. I did like Link's incarnation. I like Link a lot. I like the way he looked physically, the way they drew him up. I didn't like his combat. Naturally, we already talked about that, and his skills in combat. But his character, even though he was pretty much a mute, but he was I liked his personality basically, as much as I can make out, because like I said, he didn't talk or anything. But I liked Link. I just don't really remember Ganon. That's all.
Right. Okay, so bring it on to me for Ganon's incarnation. He was okay. I don't even know if I want to say that. He was because I mean people have told me, well, it's Ganon. Ganon, he's the more, because of course Ganon does not talk nowhere near as much as his human part Ganondorf speaks. Like he just doesn't. But people are saying, well, Ganon doesn't speak like Ganondorf does. But I'm like, yeah, but Ganon at least says he has at least 2 or 3 sentences of dialogue.
Right.
At least I'm like, he at least speaks. Like Ganon does speak. I'm like, why does Ganon not speak in Breath of the Wild? It's weird. And I don't know. It just seemed uninteresting. I also did not like how the first phase of the final boss fight was a combination of all 4 fights from the Divine Beast. That was so lazy to me.
Oh, no, I was conscious for that.
Yeah.
It's part of it. I didn't care for that either. I was yeah.
This Ganon is very uninspired. Because he's already based on something that already exists. He's just a combination of previous fights. I'm like, again, this just takes me into the whole thing of the spiral of what is this game doing? And it just makes me upset that I mean, they've done better than that. They have done better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is not only is that a little cliche, but it's just Zelda's done better than that. So as for the Link incarnation, I did like him. He was a pretty cool guy, but there was just kind of 2 gripes I had for because one. Oh, excuse me. So for one, I kind of didn't like how he died, because it seemed because he was apparently a professional, royal knight, but he just died to a couple of hits of the Guardian. Have you mind, with some of the strongest armor in the game, technically, because he's in that blue, that blue uniform, and the little haircut and all that. That's some of his strongest armor, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
And for him to just die the way he did, where he just kind of died to not even to Ganon, he died to one of the robots on the field. That is so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And such. I'm like, you would expect Ganon to come to himself and stab Link. I'm like, come on. Like, just died to a couple robots. Like, he didn't even get to see Ganon. Like, that was so
Nope.
lame. And the other thing I kind of had a problem with Link's incarnation is that when he was introduced, in the memories and all that, he started at the top of his A game, and I did not like that because with other Zelda games, Link typically starts at the bottom, and he breezes way to the top, and you can kind of grow attached to him. This Link has already started at his best. And that feels weird because you play like Twilight Princess, he's a country kid, everything, and like his friends get kidnapped and all. He's like, all right, I've got to go save the world. Let's go save the world, with Midna and all that.
Yeah.
Wind Waker Link goes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was gonna say they rob you of the opportunity to grow with him, and I think that's another reason why we really didn't care for it because that's what we're used to.
Right.
In the gameplay.
Because like Wind Waker Link, he's a lazy kid and all that, and he likes to live. He's sort of kind of on the countryside, even though there technically is no country in Wind Waker. But he's sort of a country kid. He's just kind of living on the side, just moving through life and such. But his sister gets kidnapped, and now he's like, it's like something snapped and like a fire lit. Like he really wants to save his sister. And then he's talking to these people, like, oh yeah, you want to save your sister and stuff. And you have this build up with Link, and you start to understand that he just wants to save his sister and go home. Imagine it like you're playing like, say Ocarina of Time, and you already start as adult Link on his way to go kill Ganon, or Ganondorf. Like, can you really connect to anything? Like, you didn't start, with him being a kid and, leaving his friends or anything like that to, go out to save the world or anything like that. There's no emotional connection. You just start, like, if you started as adult Link and, Hyrule is already ruined, Hyrule Castletown is ruined and everything, and Ganon already has, like, his floating castle over the lava, like, you'd have no connection to Link, Because he's already at the top of his game.
Right.
And he's already been, like, assigned his quest by Zelda. Like, that would feel so off. And the same with Skyward Sword, Link and all that. If you already had the Master Sword and such and everything, if it was already tempered by the goddess, like, that would just be, you have nothing to feel for him because he's already at the top of his game.
Right.
And they could have done that a lot better. Now, if I were to be completely honest, it felt like Breath of the Wild could have been a super long but like enjoyable Zelda experience where you start from the beginning, you're exploring this world and such, you're exploring the single player campaign, eventually then you get to the point where he's at the top of his A game and then stuff starts happening, and such, and then eventually he ends up dying and he wakes up 100 years later to a world that's different to him. Like, that would have just been such an interesting Zelda game. Like, I feel that Breath of the Wild had the potential to be one of the best Zelda games ever. Like, when I really look at it, like, it felt like when I look at it, I'm like, this could have been one of the best, if not the best Zelda game ever made. Like, it felt like if they had tweaked it and such, it could have been, like, a fantastic game. That blew out of the water, near perfect, but unfortunately, that's not what we got, and I'm a little heartbroken that didn't happen.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I agree with everything. Absolutely, I agree with everything you said about Link, because that's the Link we all learn to grow and love. The one that we grew up with, figuratively saying, and as far as in the gameplay, and I don't mean like over the years. You grow with him. You go with him through it. You go through the struggles with him. So as he grow and become, like as you say, a hero, basically.
Yeah.
You get to know him, and you feel like you've accomplished something at the same time. This game did not have that factor, that drawing factor to it. It just didn't.
I mean, like, the lore, like, literally starts with, "Hey, you're the princess's royal guard." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What?"
Right.
I'm like, okay. So we don't see how Link proves himself or anything. He's just kind of the royal guard. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, you sound like me now.
I'm like, fine, whatever. But yeah, so, and I also didn't like how Link was dead quiet and like the voice actor cutscenes. Like, I mean, like, I understand they want you to like stay immersed with Link, but like, he's just kind of not meant for silent cutscenes. Like I mentioned with Xenoblade Chronicles X, like it just feels weird. Your character's just kind of staring at everybody while they're talking. Like you rather just the dialogue boxes because it just felt better.
Yeah,
it just kind of did.
Yeah.
While he's sitting there literally with his mouth gaping open sometimes, like if I'm not mistaken, his mouth gapes open like at one point, like in the dialogue. I'm like, You look a little slow, Link. You know you might want to you might want to close your mouth. So we can move on to our next question here, and that is, do you feel there's a Zelda game Breath of the Wild could learn from?
The very one that everyone complained about, Skyward Sword, and a lot of
Uh-oh.
starting with the weapon upgrade. That should have been in the game. It just should have. The fact, like you just mentioned, the fact you get to grow with the hero, you get to
Right.
go through his struggles and trials with him, and it makes him more likable and more genuine as a that well that's pretty much just about all the so I can't just um as far as learning in the other games,
And you can pick from as many
well,
Zelda games as you want. It
they
could
could
be.
also take a page. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you can pick any Zelda game. Like this range is like, it stretches to pretty much any Zelda game that you thought was pretty
Yeah,
good.
and they could also you can also start with making Zelda likable. I don't know why they didn't make her likable. I don't know why that was put into the story where she just this unbearable little prick that gets on everyone's nerves.
Right.
Now, not in the gameplay, but I mean, like while playing, she just tends to get on your nerves because she's just so just obnoxious and it's insatiable with her just attitude and everything. It just keeps going and going and going. It's like, just why is she like this?
Right.
um, and making sure that the gameplay stays true to an actual Zelda feel, because that did not feel like a Zelda game at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of did a little bit. So you ultimately feel that it could learn from Skyward Sword, though. Like the flexibility in combat and upgrading and such.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I can get behind that. Most definitely, because it did feel a little artificial with, like, you see the same weapon but has a different stat. I'm like, how come I couldn't upgrade it to that stat? Make it more powerful. Maybe make the throwing range higher. Like, why couldn't I do that myself? Why does the game have to randomly like generate that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like part of it is just not satisfying. I mean, there's already a thing I mentioned about like weapons breaking and not being able to be repaired, but yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're
I
all
agree.
done, I can bring it around to me.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Okay, so for me, I feel there are two Zelda games Breath of the Wild can learn from. The one game I'm currently replaying, Wind Waker HD, and Spirit Tracks actually. Because for Wind Waker HD, it was kind of like we were discussing over a little earlier. Because like with the whole story being set up the way it is and such, it feels like as you're exploring the Great Sea and such, it feels like you're still exploring it with a purpose. Because it's not like everything like the tools are already given to you. You see stuff, you're like, I wonder how to do that. You come back later, you have the gear for it, and you feel prepared. Rather than Breath of the Wild's just, hey, you got the stamina, you got the clothes, all right, let's go. Like,
Right.
and that quick, hasty, ADHD feel. That's honestly what Breath of the Wild feels like. It feels like it's conforming to people who have ADHD.
Yeah,
Like they
like
just
it's
have
all
to do it at the
it's
moment.
all action and no thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that ADHD people are stupid. Actually, they're quite intelligent.
Yeah, they
It's
are.
just that they tend to act without thinking, and that's the way it does come across.
Yeah, and it just feels awkward. But like even like like what Wind Waker, you have the certain progression. Like all right, I have to on this turn on, I have to do this. Maybe I have to do that, do this. But Breath of the Wild is just kind of just do it. That I feel like Breath of the Wild can learn from Spirit Tracks progressive areas and such. Like when you go to an area, there's certain things you have to do. I like that, and it's interesting. To just go about doing that. And people, and I will agree when people say that Breath of the Wild is pretty relaxing. But honestly, when I've been playing Wind Waker HD again, honestly, Wind Waker HD feels more relaxing as opposed to Breath of the Wild. I feel Breath of the Wild could just have a more if it didn't feel as empty as it would, if it just like if it had more variety in it, I feel like it'd be a lot more relaxing to look at.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And also another Zelda game I feel like I learned from is. Oh, I know people are going to kill me for this. Spirit Tracks. I'm gonna
like it.
I'm gonna get like a spear chucked into my chest tomorrow. for saying this, but I feel like I learned from Spirit Tracks. It's overworld progression system, because the way Spirit Tracks worked is that you did side quest, as you did side quests, you did more things. The world opened up and it became more ways you could, more areas you could explore, more shortcuts you could take and everything. Because I liked how you did side quests, you'd have certain shortcuts show up, certain areas become available. Like you could find more fast travel points and such. It felt like, granted, the way Spirit Tracks did it was not perfect, but like, because there were certain elements that just felt a little weird, like the fast travel thing is just kind of was kind of weirdish. But the way Spirit Tracks had it set up, yeah, I feel Breath of the Wild could have learned from that. Because like there's all these generic side quests, but what if you had side quests, where like you're like, all right, so you do this side quest for me, I'll let you into, say, this area, or like you do this side quest, I'll let you speak to this person who could take you here or there. Like that would have made it so fun to explore the world, because then you're doing these jobs and such for these people, and the world is opening up, and it feels like it never gets boring. Kill these enemies here, well, okay, this area is safe, so now I'll open up some more, or maybe a shop will open. Like Breath of the Wild could have done so much to make it just such an interesting game to play, rather than like the whole thing of just climbing everywhere. That is just, I don't like to use this word too much, but it's lame. Climbing everywhere, it's just so lame. Like it's just you can do it from the start of the game and you're just climbing. I'm like, that is just so lame. No hook shots, no boomerangs, to solve puzzles or get around the place. And that was another thing too. Other Zelda games also had item usage to get around the place. 3D Zelda games did it. 2D Zelda games did it. And like, I miss that. I miss being able to,
I don't know why that was not included. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when they did bring items back, like the Ice Rod or Fire Rod, it was purely made as weapons and they could shatter. So, I'm like,
and they weren't even that good weapons.
They weren't. They really weren't. But yeah, like the whole progression, the whole progression of using items to get about and everything. It was satisfying, and for them to just take that away, all for freaking climbing. Like, are you kidding me? They took all the variety and the fun ways you could get about the place, and the side quests that could open. And Spirit Tracks not the only Zelda game to do side quests where places would open up, but it's the most notable example I can think of. But that's just the variety, the fun ways. And granted, like we said, variety can't make is not the only thing that makes a good game. But in a sense, it just like because what Breath of the Wild and weapons and variety, it's mostly just eye candy. Everything outside of that, it's just a frustrating. It's like if their standard sword just kept breaking in a Zelda game, that would be equally as annoying. Because it just felt like it mostly just felt like eye candy. It felt like it wasn't really contributing that much, because like again, everything because see, like when you were exploring the world with this variety of items, they carried their value, because you were exploring around, you were using it for what it was. In Breath of the Wild, everything is breaking, so it feels like it has no value. That's the difference in variety between Breath of the Wild's value in items and other Zelda games' value in items. That's what they did right.
Right.
And yeah. Breath of the Wild, it's just a huge letdown in the whole exploration department and such. Like I said, I feel like it catered to an ADHD focused crowd of just, hey, let's just run around and just do whatever. Like, what? No. Like, people are saying, well, like, this is the thing that drives me insane with people who are trying to like defend Breath of the Wild. It's always, well, you just can't accept change. I'm like, no, it's not that. It's I can't accept the bad change. A lot of stuff Breath of the Wild does is just, it's stupid, I'm gonna try to get really hard on the game like that, but I'm like, the changes it make are just bad, or it's just weird, and it's just like, it's a change that shouldn't be there. Kind of change. Yeah. Like we mentioned, the breakable items. Like, I'm not like hating a Zelda game because it's different. That's dumb. That really is, because I have played all 19 Zelda games. Like I said, I've only beaten 17 out of the 19 though. But I have played all 19 Zelda games. Out of all the Zelda games I've played, only one of them has just felt like a carbon copy of the other one. Even Majora's Mask felt different. And that game reused a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time. The story felt a lot of different. But the mash shook up the gameplay. It felt like it still felt like a vastly different experience. You have Force of Adventures, the really fast-paced Zelda game, And you have Ocarina of Time, which is very different for its time, and then Zelda 2. Like, I don't think I've really played a Zelda game and felt that, like, even the Oracle games, you know, like Oracle Ages and Seasons, like, I don't think I've really played a Zelda game where I'm like, yo, this feels like the same thing. Like, no. The way they use the items, the way that, you know, they're trying to, like, go about the overworld, excuse me again. I don't think I've really played a Zelda game that felt like the last one. Like, it didn't feel like it was a carbon copy. So, you know, that's the little thing. I'm like, Breath of the Wild, it's not that, you know, like, I don't like it because it's different. No, that's Breath of the Wild could have, like, it could have done a lot of, like I said, it could have taken a lot of things that it had potential for and took off with it. It just did not. But yeah, if it wanted to be this more futuristic Zelda game, take them like the future and such like that, you know, with like improve, and if it had like if it had improved combat and the survival elements were actually tweaked to, you know, be more, you know, like not trying to be like Monster Hunter, kind of like how it did a little bit, and didn't really like that. But if it tweaked it to its own version of survival, you know, with like EXP and all that, I wouldn't have minded that. It would have been a very different Zelda game, but I would have enjoyed it. Just because like it's way in the future. Like, I don't mind playing a futuristic Zelda game. That doesn't bother me. Because it's different doesn't mean like I dislike it. No, that's dumb. Like that, I just can't believe people are so quick to, you know, jump to that accusation. Well, you just can't accept change. Like, no. And I'm sorry because I'm getting extra defensive here and such, but this is just the stuff I've seen and I've heard. I'm sorry if I come off as really, really ranty for this one, but like you were saying, it's something I'm really passionate about, so there is that. So I suppose we can move on to our next question here, and that is, how does this game rank regarding your favorite and least favorite Zelda game? So we're getting near the end here.
It comes in dead last.
Ouch.
If it got a report card grade, it would probably get a D. Probably about a D. I can't even really give it a C, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to be honest, I think there's so much more to the game that we actually haven't seen yet. What is part of the reason why I'm grading it so low. Because like there's still DLCs out there that haven't been dropped yet and everything, and I still haven't seen all of the memory cutscenes and everything else, and I really don't know the full potential of the game yet.
Yeah, but the thing, like I mentioned, like
I'm sorry. Oh, no. Sometimes I wonder, should we play the game again and give it another chance?
That's what I wonder.
I think that would help at this moment in time.
Yeah, I want to take a month. I'll take a couple months break.
Yeah, because sometimes you can see something or play something like, oh, this is horrible, and you put it down for a while, and you come back to like, oh, it's not that bad. But yeah, the most recent memory is still too fresh.
Yeah, I might still later on. I might still check. I really, really want to get the Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time costumes for Breath of the Wild. And that with that map feature where you can check progression, so there's actually a sense of progression. Although I think they shouldn't have sold that. That should have been the game by default. But checking your progress in areas and such, I feel that could warrant a second playthrough and just have a different experience. Because at that point, the DLC, that map DLC, could probably make the game actually more enjoyable. But I'll get a little more into that in the next question. But yeah. So did you have anything else to say? I didn't mean to butt in or anything.
Nope.
Okay.
About it.
So for me, if I were to rank the Zelda game, it's my second least favorite. My least favorite is Triforce Heroes because that game is borderline unplayable at times. Like, I mean, at least I can beat Breath of the Wild. I mean, it's a vastly flawed experience. Like, granted, you haven't seen Triforce Heroes, so I can understand why it's your least favorite in the series. Which, below Zelda 1, that coming out of you is that means a whole lot. But yeah. Although to be completely honest, I'd probably rather play.
According to the times, that's why I graded so low.
Although, according to time, of course, that is, that's how I do it too. I'm like, you can't. I mean, yeah, Zelda 1 probably would be the worst Zelda game if we were to grade it, by this time. But that's not fair because that's a 1986 game. You grade it by its era, pretty much.
Yeah.
Not by 2017 standards. That's stupid, So. But yeah, so it's my second least favorite Zelda game in the series. Yeah, I'm kind of with the whole like if it got a school grade D, yeah, I'd probably roll with that. A D, or probably even linger in the D minus, because it's just like, what, you've done better, Nintendo. So for the standard just be put, for the bar to be set that low. I mean, I don't know. It kind of saddens me a bit. But yeah, second least favorite Zelda game is one of those Zelda games where, until like we were saying, the DLC drops and such, and I'll mess around with it a little more with the map DLC and such. I don't know. So we can move on to our last question here for tonight, and that is, do you feel the game could be vastly improved or /saved via updates?
Vastly, no. But can it be improved? Yes. Now, how much within the limited? Because if you think about it, I mean, the game's done. It's complete.
Yeah.
Much. It's only so much you can do to it at this point to make it better.
Right.
And how much or how far that will go to make it a better game, I don't know, but I don't have high hopes that it's gonna turn into, a A1 game for me. I doubt it. I just don't see it happening.
Okay.
Now you could possibly get it to maybe a C plus. I know I'm judging pretty harshly here, but I don't see it making B.
It's got some of things where, like, you have to see it to really get your feelings, really get your feelings out about it. So at this point, we're just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just really, really disappointed about it, and I think that colors everything, my whole perspective. Also, the fact I was so disappointed about it. I'm like, really? Of all the Zelda games you played, that is the only game I think I slept the most through, because it was that boring.
You actually play Zelda 1 more than that.
And that's what's so crazy. The fact that I would sleep through a brand new game like that, because mom's a hard worker. So the fact I was like, I want to keep my eyeballs open, but it just wouldn't stay open for the game. And I knew it's because it could not grasp or hold my attention. So that's what it was.
So if you're, this is the final question, so that's all you have to say? Just want to leave any regrets?
Nah, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. The only regret I can probably say is that I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
To like it so badly. That's like my biggest regret, the fact I didn't like it. And I really, really, really wanted to, because I'm such a huge Zelda fan.
Right. So so bringing it on to me, I feel like it could be vastly improved. I'm kind of the same way. I don't know if it could be vastly improved, but I feel like it could be saved. If I were to be completely honest, like, to me, like, if they made,
I think it could be salvaged. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, if they added a weapon, like if they added a sophisticated, weapon repairing system, and you can see the durability of your weapons, so they added that in via an update or DLC, whatever they want to do with it. I mean, if they do a DLC, I don't know, but update, DLC, whatever. If they do that, fine. But if they threw that in, that would make it a lot more enjoyable. Now, the story is doomed. The story is completely doomed. There is nothing they can do to fix that. So it's probably it's no matter what, it's not gonna hit the A range. Like, it's just not. But I feel that if the combat got balanced out and everything, the super armor was not as if it was just made a lot less severe, to where it didn't show up at random moments and just catch you off guard and randomly kill you, and if Link's defense was reasonably balanced, where he wasn't dropping like a fly, but he's also not an immortal like God, if they could balance that out, that would be nice. Yeah. And such, heck, even if they did something where they made an update where it was more like a traditional mode, where rather than making all these armor sets, you could just get tunics, and they were just full costume sets and everything with their own sets of stats and all that. And the game had a more classic feel to it. Now, if they did that, and combined with because again, they probably can't do much with the world exploration unless they made a game mode where you had to progressively open up the overworld, which I would love an update like that. Although That's probably just a dream, so I'm not gonna worry too much about that. But I feel that in combination with balanced combat, also if they could make it to where like at least to make it an option where you can make adjustable sword swings. Although that's not my biggest concern. Although I don't like that they took it away. But so basically, make swords repairable, and balance the combat, make it a lot more tolerable, and drop the super armor a lot. And, combine that with the whole map feature and checking your progress, and I think you have at least a good, solid B, like a ranked B Zelda game. I feel like...
Oh, you have higher hopes than I do.
Yeah. I mean, to be completely honest, I don't mean to be, like, pessimistic, but I don't think it's gonna happen, to be honest. I think it's just gonna stick around the range. I mean, I feel like it could get better. If Nintendo listens to the criticism that they're getting, yeah, they can fix this, they can patch the Zelda game up, but that's up to Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah. So I'm really I have my fingers. So I'm hoping they notice these problems and they they balance out the combat and they make weapons repairable, because I feel that fixing those two things alone can make the game a lot more enjoyable overall.
Yeah.
Like I said, it'll never get to the A range because the story is just utter trash. And even from a story standpoint, Breath of the Wild doesn't even make sense. Like, it actually tries to connect, like, 3 timelines, and so, like, it's barely even a canon game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, the story just utterly, it brought it down. But I feel like it at least be, like, a good Zelda game. If with a couple updates, I feel like it could be good. I truly feel that it could be a good Zelda game with, like, the right updates. And it's a Zelda game I could sit down and, with like the whole map feature and checking progress and stuff, it's a game I can sit down and I can enjoy.
Oh, and that freaking dungeon map. Oh my goodness, that is such
please, Nintendo, never do that again. That dungeon map is so bad. That 3D map, no, never again. I hate it. It is trash. Do not bring it back. That is so bad.
That was terrible.
And how it like turned with the camera and such. I'm like, this is just so crappy. This is such a bad map. Go back to the traditional map, please. That was so much better.
I remember you saying, I know this is not the map. When it first came up, you were about to have
I was in denial.
Not the map.
I was in denial.
Yeah, it was crazy. And yes, indeed, that was the map.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, that is our very long-winded opinions on Breath of the Wild. A bit different from my So I Finished Breath of the Wild, and it's less scripted and such. You guys can check that out if you're interested in it. It's I put my heart and soul into it. I practically broke my back making that video, so you can check that out if you want any more. Because I for sure did not address everything from that video in this one. Also, funny enough, I've talked about Breath of the Wild more in this podcast than I have in the actual video, but that's because the video is more scripted and it has more, it's more thought out. But it's just one of those things. But
right.
Yeah. So you want to check that out for a more in-depth and more scripted sequence and such like that, because there's things that I most definitely skipped out on. So you can check that out. I'll probably leave a link in the description. But yeah, guys, I'm RoberOnocle, as you better know me as Rob, and here was my awesome Zelda-loving mom, and we will see you guys next time.
Oh, for sure, cool.